One thing that I think really hurt me, that really killed television, TV, I'll say that again. One thing that really hurt TV or television with me, it just wasn't when my dad introduced me to radio. It was actually the Vietnam War. There wasn't much on it because the world news come on 6:30 to 7 p.m. and they only had maybe 10, 12 minutes about the Vietnam War. Then they would go on to other headlines. But before the Vietnam War ended, and I remember when it ended, I think it was 74. I remember I sometimes I'd watch the world news with my dad. We'd sit down in front of the TV set, and I remember back in 71, 72, 1971, 72, 73. So I would have been 8 years old in 71. And I got so tired of hearing this. Heavy fighting in Saigon, Saigon, Saigon. Heavy fighting, heavy fighting. And it showed a reporter on the field in Vietnam. And sometimes the cameraman would maybe show the wounded soldier and maybe a little blood or something. Even back then, they got a little graphic. But I got so tired of hearing heavy fighting in Saigon, in Saigon, in Saigon, in Saigon. Heavy fighting, heavy fighting, heavy fighting, heavy fighting. I'm not blaming my dad. No. I'm blaming the Vietnam War. It hurt veterans, but it also hurt little boys like me. Seeing it on TV, hearing it on TV. Vietnam War, Vietnam War. Monday through Friday, they would, 6 world news, Walter Cronkite. Heavy fighting, going to a reporter on the ground. It just heavy fighting in Saigon and Saigon, Saigons. I got so tired of hearing that. Heavy fighting in Saigon and Saigon and Saigon. 5 soldiers killed today. And just nonstop, nonstop. We tried taking over a village. They tried taking over a village, and 3 soldiers died in conflict. Don't think that didn't get old for an 8, 9-year-old. Now, I would go outside and play if the weather permitted, so I wouldn't hear it. I wouldn't. I didn't do it much. I didn't sit in front of the TV watching the world news much. But it doesn't take much to hurt you psychologically. I've heard enough of it where 50 years later, I barely watch any news clips at all. It just you get tired. Got old hearing that. Heavy fighting in Saigon. Heavy fighting in Saigon. I never forget when the world news would come on. The CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. Now from New York, Walter Cronkite. And he knew what was going to happen. Even me, 8, 9 years old. Vietnam, Vietnam, Vietnam. Today, heavy fighting, heavy fighting. I tell you what, I was glad when it ended. It's just not good. And if kids today, children today, you hear it 24/7. I really feel sorry for children and kids today. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. The 1970s, the early 70s, all through the 70s, but the early, there's only world news one time a day, 6:30, maybe 10 to 12 minutes of the Vietnam, and that was it. I'm lucky. Who I feel sorry for is the kids, children today, 24/7 news. My heart breaks for them. Now it's all about Iran. Iran is, Iran that. I've heard Iran for 50 years. Iran is, Iran that. Is it Iran or Iran? I've heard it pronounced fighting in Iran or Iran, Iran, fighting. Who I feel sorry for is the children seeing it on their CNN news in their living rooms. That's who I feel sorry for, or on their smartphones. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. Just one time a day when I was a kid, 10, 12 minutes. But it doesn't take much to kill your appetite for television, TV, news. It doesn't take much to kill that. And I just barely watch any clips, even though I share it on my Facebook. I don't watch the whole news. At least I can fast forward it now. I'm not stuck in one segment. I can fast forward it. That's why I share it on my Facebook. At least I don't have to watch the whole thing. Back in the 70s, you was stuck. You had to watch the whole thing. But at least now you got technology on your side. You can fast forward unless it's a live broadcast. I don't even watch live. I wait till after the broadcast so I can fast forward. I never watch it live unless it's an emergency break. Like the world news, I like to wait about 10 hours. Then share it. Even though it's a lot of, you'd be surprised how many people hasn't seen the news even 12 hours later. That's why I love, today you don't have to suffer. You can, after the live broadcast, you can fast forward it all you want.